Oh, it feels so good to be back. We're back in the saddle. Cooperville Live, we are back after what amounted to a full week off. So good, though. So good. If you've never been to Florida, I highly recommend it. It was the shiznizzle for dizzle, my bizzles. But we are back. Plenty of stories to tell on our adventures. Naples, Bonita Springs, Marco Island. Lots of stuff. Lots of things. But it was so good. Hailing and Bloomer. Yeah, we got severe weather back up in this joint, up in this place. Yeah, and what it'll be severe thunderstorm warnings and watches all about the area. Joe, good to see you back again, my friend. Yeah. Not exactly what I left. But we had ideal weather down there the entire time. It was just 90 nickel-size hail up in Bloomer. That's crazy. Nothing here yet, but I'm sure if all of a sudden the lights go out, that's the reason why. And now the sun is shining. Very typical Wisconsin spring weather. Again, what are we going to do? Are we going to be nice or are we going to be shitty? Maybe we'll be both. Who knows? It's good to be back. Little tanner. I don't know. Could be the lighting. Lots of sunshine. Lots of sunshine, lots of cocktails, lots of good stuff. But it's good to be back. There we are. Just jamming to the intro. But I hope all of you are staying safe wherever you're watching from today, whether you're on the Facebook Live or you're on Instagram or on YouTube, youtube.com/Cooperville Live. It's been a week. It's been a week since we've done this. Otherwise, twitch.tv/Cooperville Live. That's all the places that we are live streaming. After a week in Southwest Florida, thank you to all the new friends we made in the Sunshine. Is it the Sunshine State? I think it's the Sunshine State. Or is that California? I don't know. Whatever it was, there's a lot of sunshine there. Like we got to the point where we wake up and have a cup of coffee and we're like, another shitty day in Florida. There's like 4 clouds in the sky. And you wake up and you can walk right outside in shorts, and it was great. Beautiful down there. Lots of things to see, lots of freedom. Lots of freedom down there in Florida. Did see some people wearing masks and stuff, but that was very rare. A lot of great food. Wow, we had some excellent food down there. If you're a seafood buff, it doesn't get any better than fresh out of the Gulf. It was really something special down there. But it's good to be back, right? Like it's good. Oh, it's good to be back. Is it? Like, I don't know. It's great to be back on the show. Yeah. Great to be back with my peeps talking shit. We got Jessta James coming up in just a little bit. Can't wait to chat it up with him. I'm hopeful. There may have been some confusion on the time zone because I was in a different time zone. He's out in a different time zone. I think maybe we'll find out. If not, what are you going to do? But I did notice some very specific things about being in Florida. Everyone is really freaking nice. And I know people have said that when they've traveled from other places and they've come up here to Wisconsin. They're like, oh, you people are so nice up there. We're assholes, comparatively speaking, to Floridians, at least in the part of Florida we were in. I can't speak on, Miami or Tampa or Fort Lauderdale, none of that. But that specific area that we were in, Naples, basically Fort Myers and south, everybody was nice, so nice. Everybody said hi. We did morning walks on the beach, and good morning. Everybody's just super kind. We had lunch at a nice little outdoor breakfast place or brunch place, I guess. And there's a lot of money down there too. I'm not gonna lie. So what we saw was a car exiting a parking lot and another car coming, and both cars probably, they're both six figures, but I know one was a Porsche convertible and the other one was like a Maserati. And it was close, but he's like, hey man, I don't have a stop sign here. Guy's like, I'm sorry. And they went about their way. Just like, hey man. You know why? You got all that vitamin D. You got all that vitamin D down there. All that sunshine all the time. It's just nice. I get hurricane season probably sucks. But they're like, it's all good. No worries. A lot of great people down there. A lot of friendly folks, friendly faces. I did. So we went out to a couple places, but we ended up at this bar called the Sidebar, just off of Fifth Avenue in Naples. And we went in and we had a drink. This is, I think, our second time that we'd gone there. So the second time we went in, had a drink, maybe two drinks, and then left. And there was like a guy outside who was carding people as they were coming in. And I had on my line, one of my lines, not sheep hats. And that dude, looked like, vibed me like former military guy. Like just had that, like you served, didn't you? Still had the high and tight, everything. Built. He was like, dude, I love your hat. I want to see more of that stuff down here. And I was like, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah, for liking the stream. Appreciate it. And I had already had a couple of cocktails, and I'm like, like our Airbnb was like right across the street. And so I went and I grabbed a different Lions Not Cheap hat and I gave it to the dude. He's like, no, what are you doing, man? I'm like, no, bruh. Like, it's good. It's good. You need to have one. I have several. So I was spreading the love in South Florida, which I'm sure they appreciate. That was good though. A lot of good stories, and I'm sure we'll get back to talking a lot about them. And Jake, thanks for liking the stream, buddy. Appreciate it. Like my little notifications down here. It alerts me in the ears. It's good stuff. But no, it was great people, great conversations. We had a great, you never know what you're going to get when you get on an airplane, like who you're going to sit by. We sat by this lovely lady who's from Minnesota but has a house down in Florida. And she was heading down, I believe it was her son's bachelor party. So they were going to have 19 26-year-olds at their house. And she's like, I got like 4 handles of tequila and 4 handles of Tito's. And very nice, though. Very nice. We talked about the challenges facing Minnesota. And she just talked about how different it was down in Florida. And which was great. So we had a great conversation, like really before we took off. And then, when you get on the plane, you throw the earbuds in and do your thing. And then on the way back, another group of ladies was flying back to Minnesota, talking about they're basically moving. Like, we're moving out here. Like, oh, she's like, we need to get out of Minnesota, need to get out of the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And trust me, friends, Trust me when I say the conversation happened multiple times. Multiple times. And all was well. We're just like, I don't know. But it's tough. It's tough, I think, when you know you're coming back to, spring, summer in Wisconsin, because we got these like 3 months. Basically wrapping up with May, Memorial Day weekend this weekend, and then you have June, July, August, Labor Day. So we're between the holidays. Like, that's the nice time. And fall, like fall. Fall's nice. Pretty colors. But then like fall turns like that. It's like pretty colors, and it's like everything's just dead. But like 1,000% totally get the appeal of Southwest Florida, and we had to. It was tragic. We had to move our flight. And we got to stay in Florida longer. I know. Boo-hoo, right? Boo, we got to stay in Florida longer? I know. Yeah. But it was a great trip. It was nice to get away. Again, my first real vacation in like 8 years. It was ridiculous. But it's good to be back into the swing of things, and great to have all of you. Thank you, everybody who's watching. Make sure you jump on, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell, all those things, and all the platforms that you're watching the stream on. Super excited. I see Jessta James is in the green room. We're going to bring him in just a second. This was super cool, and I want to talk to him really in depth about this, because this was another one of those moments where I'm scrolling down the Instagram, and this song pops up, and this video clip pops up, and I'm like super intrigued, because I've really developed this discovery thing with Instagram. And then I fell down the rabbit hole of Jessta James, and I need to hear this dude's story, because I love musical evolution, and just like hearing how A to B to C to back to A, like super cool stuff. He's got a brand new song out right now. Let's bring up the website. I think I have the website up here on WebSource One. No, that's mine. There we go. We'll bring it back up to main cam. But JessaJames.com is the website. There it is right there. See, Loaded Gun is the latest single. The video is ridiculously awesome. You need to go and check it out. And if you don't, you're missing out on the basic necessities of life. So there you go. You've been warned. You know what to do now. I will bring him into the studio and say, hello, Jessta. Welcome to the program. Thank you for taking some time out, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great. How am I coming in your way?
Great.
Good. I know we got a time delay. But the internet apparently travels everywhere nowadays.
Yeah.
Thanks to Elon Musk. We have the internet everywhere we want to go.
Yep.
That's awesome, man. Well, again, I appreciate you jumping on here. And I was telling the story about discovering your music, because it was a clip of Loaded Gun, your latest single that's out right now. Congratulations on all the success. And I've been posting the numbers up there, so that's got to feel good getting that out.
Thank you.
But it was one of those things. Like, I went in, and I messaged you, and I was like, dude, like, your sound is like just something spectacular. Rabbit hole library. And I was like, this man has evolved. His sound has evolved and continues to grow and continues to, it feels like you're like just finding this sweet spot, because you were a guy who actually started out in hip hop with country sound to it, which now is a really big thing. Right. We just left South Florida, and I'm like, I saw so many American flags. I thought I was in Alabama. Like, do we miss a flight? Like, are we in the wrong spot? But you have evolved into this fully rounded sound. Like, tell me about how you got into to the hip hop scene, and then including those country music or those country sounds in it, and how you arrived at where you are today.
Well, first off, thank you very much. I'm glad you're digging the sound and the music, and took the time to see where I've come from musically.
Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely right. It's been a journey, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of things, but here we are. And so I guess I'll try to be short and to the point, but give you a little story about how I ended up in music in general.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a huge music fan, and I grew up on all genres, from rock, old school country, a lot of the old outlaw country, Hank and Waylon and Johnny, and But classic rock and southern rock, a lot of influence, all over the board. And then later, I guess as I was getting out of high school, I kind of dove into hip hop and different genres of more urban style music. And so when I actually got into making music myself, I didn't play any instruments, and I didn't really think I could sing. And so naturally I could write songs, and I could rap. So that's how
Mm.
I kind of ended up in the hip hop genre. And it was very humble beginnings of just kind of making beats and music in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And so I started performing here where I live in Montana. I'm from Bozeman, Montana,
Mm.
and I got a following, a small following here, and I was able to call up some booking, some talent buyers, I guess, for some bigger venues, and I booked some gigs opening up for some big rappers that came in the area.
Mm.
There's a rapper by the name of The Game,
Mm-hmm.
and he came to Missoula, Montana, and I booked an opening slot for him, and I had a I had an hour long slot to fill, basically opening up for a sold out show in front of about 4,000 people in Missoula. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I went up there and I did what I was supposed to do. And it turns out I met a manager at that show
Mm.
that managed a big rapper by the name of Nipsey Hussle,
Mm.
and managed a rap group called Bone Thugs and Harmony. And so I spent my time talking with this manager instead of trying to hang out with the game and get pictures and stuff. I wanted to learn, anything that this guy could teach me. And so we kind of hit it off. And shortly after that, he's like, "Well, if you're gonna be, if you're gonna take this music thing seriously, come to LA, and we'll dive into it." So that's how I got into music in general. It wasn't country, it wasn't rock, it wasn't anything, but there I was in like hip hop and rap. So I got there in meeting in LA,
Mm.
and I booked some sessions to record at like Paramount Studios and American Studios, and like the place to be, right?
Right.
So I was working with this manager, and he had a lot of people that he had an artist that he managed that had a number one pop record at that time. So I was around a lot of different artists, but nothing, it was all urban and pop sounding stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But as I was developing my sound, I realized that I've always wanted to incorporate country instrumentation and elements to my music. And I hadn't heard it up until that time. I had not heard anybody do it quite like I wanted to do it. And so I just started doing it and recording like banjo and like, mandolin and
Yeah.
guitars, all this stuff and live drums. And I was rapping over it, and I was starting to learn how to sing. But at that time, like I said, this was in 2010 when I really started doing that. And the only person that I knew at that time that was melding, an urban rap sound with the country was Bubba Sparks at that time.
Yeah.
And he was even more, lean towards pop and hip hop. He was being produced by Timbaland,
Yep.
a big known producer at that time. So basically, I started melding these sounds, and I guess I should mention Kid Rock had been doing some things along those lines, but it was very different. It didn't sound like my rap, it was
Right.
very different rock, kind of a vibe to it. So all the people that I was working with in the best studios over there were like, "Well, if you're going to do country, you might as well go to Nashville. You might as well go where all the players are and where you're going to get some industry connections and people that you want to meet
Mm.
to get you where you want to go." And so I took my journey to actually to Georgia, and I worked with a producer over there, and he was a incredibly talented producer in rock and country, and we wrote and produced an album together that we wanted, demoed basically out, and then we wanted to take that to Nashville and cut it.
Mm.
So there I was in Blackbird Studio and working with some of the A-list musicians over there, and it was quite an experience. Just watching that happen, there's some incredibly talented people that, when you get to just see in their element playing live, it's like a special concert.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty cool, and I took that, and that was the album that you probably heard called "Time to Get Right."
Yep.
And I had some pretty unique sounding songs on that. Definitely more commercial, commercially viable on the country side of things. So without talking your ear off, I guess I should mention that it was kind of flipped from what I was doing. So I was making urban music with country instruments before, and then we kind of flipped the script and we started making country music with a little bit of rap.
Yeah.
And so at that time, there were some people that were emerging in the music industry, like Colt Ford
Mm.
and different people from the South and from, the whole East side of music over there. And I didn't really know any of those people when I got into it. I thought I was the only one. And so then people started making comparisons and things because there were like-minded artists doing similar combinations, but definitely a different vibe, a different sound. So yeah, I mean, that's how I dove into the country world. And I didn't really, never really felt home in Nashville.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, it was cool. I met a lot of great people, but it didn't feel like home to me. It was always something that was just a little bit of an inner conflict for me. I
Mm.
wasn't making the type of music I wanted to make. So at that time, I had an 8-piece band and we hit the road pretty hard. I mean, we had like 130, 140 shows, I remember, inside a year,
Wow.
and radio tours on top of that. So it kept me really, really busy. At that
Yeah.
time, I was uh, starting a family with my wife. We had just recently got married, and we had two young children, Wyatt and Josie.
Mm.
And I was really gone a lot in the very, very beginning, and it was pretty tough on me, on my wife. And so I decided at that time that I was going to take a little break from music and go be a dad and not miss out on, all the good things that you can't get back,
Yeah.
those memories that you really want to be a part of and always remember. So that was a really tough decision for me as an artist because I'd been grinding, and it's such it's a hard road if you're
Yeah.
going to start from nothing and try to make your way and build a name. And so that was definitely, it was a tough decision, but it was, looking back, it was the best decision I ever could have made, as a person, just in general. And so I stepped back. I never stopped making music. I at one time, I think I tried. I couldn't do it.
You tried to kick the habit, but it wouldn't let it kick. You wouldn't let it kick you.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of
Yeah.
those things. If you're bit by that music bug, no matter what you do, nothing quite replaces that. Nothing can fill that void. And so, um, so I never stopped making music, but I was really, at this point, it took me back to the basics, where it was just me in a room. At a home studio, it was just me, and figuring out what I really wanted to do, what didn't hear being done, what could be, and it was more about, so when you're in the music industry and you're
Mm.
an artist and you have all these people around you, whether it's management or A&R people and different musicians, everybody's putting their 2 cents into what you do.
Mm.
Everyone's trying to, and you really have to learn to block out, take in good advice, along the way, not be ignorant about it, but block out the things that, you don't need to influence you.
Right.
And it becomes a challenge, it
Mm.
becothat challenge, I think, for any artist that's doing it seriously. So in a way, it was really refreshing for me to take a step back, just get in that room in that studio by myself and really just feel the music,
Mm.
feel about it without thinking about things too much and just let it happen really organically. And so that brought me to this sound that emerged that I call my Montana outlaw music.
Mm.
It's it's reminiscent. I describe it as, it's very reminiscent of some of the older outlaw music that I mentioned earlier, the Waylon Jennings and the Johnny Cash, even Hank Jr. And yet I try to put my own twist on that, and definitely just let that side of me come out that's natural, and that it's not trying to sound like any of those artists, but kind of paying homage to them, like, hey, I'm inspired by the greats
Yeah.
over here, and then still weaving in some of that southern rock and that classic rock that I love so much. And so it's been kind of an experiment that I didn't really know how people would respond to it. I was like, I'm going to make music for me
Yeah.
for the first time, and really, really make something that, if people like it, cool. If they don't, cool. And so I did that, and I played it for some people that are close to me, just like you do. The
Mm.
artists, they find their small circle of people that they can trust, and that won't, steer them in the wrong direction. They'll tell you straight. And the response was unanimous for everyone that I played it for. And so I was like, okay, this feels really good. And I prayed about it, and I was like, this is and I guess, for me, that was a big aha moment. It was an
Mm.
epiphany because um, I realized the reason why I didn't really feel comfortable in at home in Nashville is because wasn't making I wasn't like the other artists. My sound wasn't like that.
Right.
I didn't see that connection with what was being played on the radio and what I heard being played from all these Nashville cats. And granted, to each their own. Everybody has their own style, but it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And so I learned that. Um, and so when I found the sound, I really, like, something clicked in my head. I was like, I don't have, if I'm gonna do country music, if I'm gonna do anything in that realm, I don't have to do what everyone else is doing at all. I can
Right.
just do what feels right to me, and people will gravitate towards that are supposed to. So,
Yeah.
maybe that sounds obvious to some people, but it's not always that easy to see when you're trying to find your way, in the music business. So I feel very grateful for that, and it over a very short amount of time, I decided, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go all in. I'm gonna go back into the music industry, but I'm going to be very selective about who I have around me,
Mm.
and I'm gonna do as much as I can on my own, so I don't have so many chefs in the kitchen
Yeah.
and this outside influence, because I really liked what I was hearing and experiencing. And so I did that, and out of necessity, I had to learn a lot of things, a lot of pieces of that puzzle I didn't have to do before. So I'm a big fan of film and movies
Mm.
and movie production, and so I learned how to do that, and I learned how to direct and produce and do my own videos. And I had always been very involved, I guess, in all my other video shoots
Yeah.
because I was interested. So I always I tell upcoming artists that I talk to, and I tell anybody, whether it's music or film or anything in that realm, be a sponge. If
Yeah.
you're blessed enough to work with people that are good, or even better, if they're great at what they do, you can always learn so much from these people along the way. And that was definitely the case in my story, because when I really started to applying these things that I didn't realize I even knew,
Mm.
it was natural. It came out. It's very easy. And so yeah, I started doing my own videos, and I started figuring out how to edit those videos and how to do, everything along with it, the whole production side of it, even down to doing my own marketing. And
Nice.
so all the videos where you found me, that was just, me kind of putting out my own product. And it wasn't as easy to do that even 5 years ago. But where we're at today, with technology and where the industry is in the world, if you take the time to learn a few
Mm.
of these things, that it's, even independent artists can make a big impact and do things that, would surprise them, I'd say.
I think there's a lot to be said, and thank you for telling your story, the evolution of your musical influence, and then again the sponge thing. I think it's so important, especially as an artist, when you talk about the music aspect of it, not having all the chefs in the kitchen, because you know what you want it to sound like. You know what I mean? Like you have, when you write the song, it's already in your ear, and it's
Yep.
a can be a challenging thing to explain to somebody, especially if you have others and too many others inside of a studio or inside of the kitchen, saying, "Well, what about this?" And you're like, "Well, no, that's not it.
Yeah,
That's not where I
there's
was
always
going with
that
this."
friction, especially if they think they've done it before, they know
Right.
what they're doing, and
Or they have like there's a somebody else has had success doing it with this sound, or maybe a little less of this. But I think that's, when you're an artist who wants to have that creative control and to sound like what you want to sound like, and then lean that over into the video portion of it, where you have, you wrote the song and you have the vision for what the
what
visualization
the
should
end
be.
product is going
Yeah,
to be like.
it should look like.
So
Yeah,
and not to cut you off, I
yeah,
was just going to say, it made me think when I wrote Loaded Gun, when I wrote that song, I was actually sitting right here in my home at my desk. I just wrote it, and kids were probably, fighting in the background somewhere.
yeah,
Um, but I wrote that song, and I saw the video as I wrote it, and
mm,
that's how, like, my creativity has progressed to where I'm thinking 10 steps ahead, or 50 steps ahead, even when I'm, writing, my pen hits the paper. So, and yeah, I still write with a pen. I guess
right.
everybody else typing everything, but I'm old school like that. It's something, it's a vibe, I guess. I always write my songs, by pen. So, but yeah, so it's definitely been an interesting process, and now my stories, and I gave you the super abridged version, of course. That, that is, something that I'm proud of,
Mhm.
because I I didn't give up when I thought I had, everything figured out sonically and everything. And I think that that story can help a lot of people as they, as they're coming up. At least that would make me feel good, if the one part of my tough journey in the music industry, and it's never going to be easy for anybody, but if you can kind of give some game to some people, if you can help them along their journey and save them some pitfalls, or give them a shortcut to something that did work for you, I think that's a blessing, that I'd love to share with other people. So
No, 100%. I think even the part about you can be easily influenced, not you, but like generally speaking, if you go to a place like Nashville, there's a coercion to a particular sound, because currently that particular sound is successful. It's really easy to sell, and you can kind of find yourself and like, okay, well, we'll melt you down a little bit. We'll put you into the mold,
yeah,
and
the
we'll
formula.
yeah, we'll just roll you right on out the assembly line here. And kind of the same thing when you talk about a place like LA. Now, obviously, there's a little more, diversity, a little different sound, but there's
Yep.
also a very well scripted formula to creating a pop artist.
Yep.
It takes these four elements, and there you go. You can be on your way. But if you want to be an artist that is like legit true to the things you're writing about, obviously your life experiences as a husband, as a father, as somebody who is, I mean, I've heard beautiful things about Montana as far as just like the outdoor element of it. Like,
It's amazing.
it's big sky country, right? Montana,
Yeah.
big sky
Yep.
country. Yeah. So just all those elements that you want to write about, I could see going to a place like Nashville. And this is a great story for anybody who has, things about where they're from that make them who they are. They can get lost in a place like Nashville sometimes.
True.
You kind of
And
lose
it's
the,
and it's not even, it's by design by the industry, and
yeah.
it's so everybody kind of wants to, get a piece of something. But what they try to do, and you'll hear other artists that have been through it, the artists that have really been through it, they will try to take what makes you unique and special, and then they'll try to strip that down,
Hmm.
and they'll, like you said, they'll try to mold you into a cookie cutter. And I don't want it to be misleading that, I was still always adamant about blazing my own trail
Hmm.
musically, and doing something different than something that, it doesn't interest me if it sounds like everything else. So like that's why when I started doing country and hip hop in the beginning, I really didn't know anybody else that was doing it. So it was different. It was cool to me. It was interesting and groundbreaking at that time. It's
Hmm.
like you mentioned in the very beginning. It has now since become a very popular mainstream, blend of music.
Hmm.
It's even on the, whether it's pop country or just hip hop and country, and to where it's almost become the norm in most areas. And so, especially because it became such a big thing, I didn't want anything to do with it. So I naturally evolved my music into, a different direction. So yeah, I mean, the music industry, like you said, going to Nashville and those places, you will no doubt learn things that you didn't know, about the industry and everything. But I guess if you are going to do that as a young artist, or artist at any age, if you're going to make that commitment to go there, just remember that it's the things that set you apart from everybody else that is really going to matter in the end. So
Yeah.
don't lose those things. Start there, and then decide what you want to chisel away or add to that to make it more, a bigger thing, or a more successful thing. So
Right.
that'd be my advice for sure.
I do find that there's still, and this is just, I did 20 years in radio, 20 plus years in radio. It's really all I did from the time I was a teenager until I was very much not a teenager anymore. Uh, little, just shy of 40, I think. But having this, like a knack for listening to lots of different styles of music. So I did lots of different formats, mostly rock stuff. But when I was growing up, it was all hip hop. Like I was a small town Wisconsin kid. It just listened to House of Pain and Cypress Hill and Biggie and Tupac and all of the it's just like,
I had the tapes.
oh yeah, and they're like cassette tapes. I'm like, you'll never understand. You'll never know the struggle. But I still feel, and it's listening to some of your more recent stuff, that there's still like transitional like rhymes that I'm like, there's a little
Where it
hip
comes
hop.
from, right? Where it
Yeah.
ties into that
I'm like,
inspiration.
no, so it's very cool that that's still, as a part of, even though the style has evolved and changed, those little anecdotal writing things are still, they're
Well,
noticeable in the song, which I think is it makes it even more
I'm
awesome.
glad to hear you say that because I don't know if I've heard that before and recently, with my new music.
Mm,
So I would agree. I don't always notice it. It's just something that actually comes out. And I think that everybody, um, especially nowadays, but even when we were kids and we were growing up, it we were exposed to, just like you said, different elements and types of music. When most people didn't listen to one thing and
yeah.
don't nowadays. So, I grew up on those early hip hop artists too, and all the other artists that we talked about. So I think that's a really special thing in music,
Mm,
especially once you find your sound and your lane that you really are confident that you want to run with. That is true to yourself. Those natural elements leak in there,
yeah.
and it changes it. It makes it different. So when I say I put a more modern or my own twist to some of the outlaw stuff, it doesn't have to be fabricated. That's just naturally how it comes out
Right.
when I'm writing music and I'm arranging music.
I know
So
the last year has been a strange one, I guess, maybe to say the least. But I know you talked about taking that some time off of the road, and but have you utilized this? I mean, it sounds like you're a guy that just, that you mentioned the word sponge, which is something I love hearing from people that I talk to, artists that I have on here, because there's always more to learn. You talk about video stuff. I did the same thing during COVID. Is taught myself like, okay, how do you use Premiere Pro? And then you like, how do I make this transition look like this trend? So you're always like learning these little things. Do you think that you spent, obviously you had a lot of family time and
yeah.
got to get out and explore a lot, but do you feel like you used a lot of this time that maybe would have been reserved for? And I'm not sure if you're in the wanting to do these big long 160 dates a year plus radio tour stuff, but even small runs of shows, lining up a couple dates and things like that, but not being able to do that or not even having that clutter in your mind, because there's a lot that goes into lining up tours, even small ones. But to not have that, was this a great opportunity for you to really absorb knowledge, spend time with the family, get out and breathe the clean air more often?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. It was the best for me
Yeah.
because I didn't have I didn't have all those distractions.
Hmm.
I didn't have all this, bandwidth of my mind being reserved for gearing up for touring and rehearsing and, musicians and lining everything up. And I like to wear a lot of hats as an artist anyway. Like I said, I'm very hands on with everything I do now. And it's very demanding of your time, especially if you're a dad and a
Oh yeah.
husband, you're trying to balance that family life the best way you can. So, yes, not having to worry about a big chunk of the music industry in general and the live stuff it enabled me to focus mere, specifically on creativity.
Hmm.
And writing songs is my favorite part, like creating the song from a thought to a melody to, to honing it in to recording it and watching it evolve in front of your eyes is a very rewarding experience. And it's just fun. It's just a very, very fun process. So one thing I did learn that I should have learned years prior, and I think I just maybe was slow to realize how important of a key it could be, is writing songs through Zoom or FaceTime
Mm.
with somebody. So there are a lot of great musicians here in Bozeman, Montana. It's an amazing place. But because my music journey took me to LA and it took me to Nashville and all over the South, and I became really good friends with amazing musicians
Mm.
from elsewhere,
Yeah.
and I would always book trips to LA and we'd go write songs and, and record on the spot. But having that time here, I figured out that I could just reach out to my friends and we would sit here like we're sitting here now
Mhm.
from two different places, and we'd write a song or two songs, and it was just like we were sitting in the same room anyway. There was really no, disconnect at all. And I was like, why didn't I do this? Why haven't I been doing this? This is incredible, And so it was really a rewarding experience because I got to be very productive. Um, there's a lot of new material that I have that I'm really excited to release, and it's going to be it's kind of stockpiled right now. And now it's
Nice.
going to be a strategic release. And it was a kind of a slow, build up, just releasing singles.
Mm.
But I'm about to, well, I didn't tell anybody, but I'll tell you here first. I'm about to release my new album, and it's probably going to be last week of July. I haven't picked a date yet, but by the last week of July, there's going to be 12 songs on it, and it is really, I believe, something really special.
Mm.
It's kind of just every song is different, yet it's still very cohesive with this Montana outlaw sound, and I'm pulling inspiration from all the things that we talked about, and a few new areas as well. So I'm really excited about this project. Of course, the song you mentioned at the beginning, "Loaded Gun," is going to be on there.
Hmm.
In my two previous releases, I released a song called "Some Names"
Yep.
and another song called "Haunted Highway," and those are the only three that have been released that are on this album. But very shortly after that, I'm not going to make people wait so long for the next album. It'll probably be, maybe 3 or 4 months before I release
Wow.
my next EP. So all that creative time I had, I think, was really worth it, and
Yeah.
people are going to get to enjoy the fruits of that, so to speak. And then, yeah, I guess since we're talking about that, um, the Loaded Gun video, it's kind of like a mini movie,
Yeah.
right? It's like a western,
Yep.
and I really, really had a good time doing it, even though it was negative 15 on the second day. It was really cold.
Yeah. I know how those temperatures can be. Being from Wisconsin, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
and it probably bites a little bit more over there because there's probably some more humidity to the air,
Yeah.
so
It cuts right through
cuts.
the skin. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Even if it's dry and climate up here, negative 15 is it still
Yeah.
feels really cold. There's no getting around that. But it was a fun video, it was a fun
Mm.
project, but it really opened up my mind to what I want to do and
Mm.
what I will be doing in the future. And so I decided to do a trilogy to Loaded Gun. So I am in less than 2 weeks, the beginning of June, I'm filming an even, I should say, more ambitious
Mhm.
video for my next single. And you probably saw that in my post. It's called
Yep.
"Hell's Coming With Me."
Yep.
So that's going to be the sequel to Loaded Gun. It's going to be, there's going to be some of the same elements and everything to it, same time frame. And then I think if we can pull it off right, they're filming a movie on this location that we're going to be using right now. But sometime at the end of July or early August, I'm going to film the prequel to both of
Oh,
these.
very cool.
So you'll kind of see some characters reappear that, maybe you didn't think we're going to, show up again. And there'll be some, I think, little nuggets or Easter eggs of knowledge, that'll kind of make these other videos make sense too. So I guess I'm inspired by some great film directors like Quentin Tarantino, of
Yeah.
course, is one of my favorites. And one of the things he does is he'll break up the timeline and he'll give you a piece here that doesn't make sense until the very end. And so I think I'm going to incorporate a lot of those things in my future projects just because, why not?
Yeah.
So
That's that's super cool, dude. I love it. And I love the fact that, you know, just all the times that you spent, of course, being a part of your own, music videos, not necessarily the one that was putting it all together, but just that constant gain of knowledge and expanding your horizons and just knowing all the stuff and then having the time to really expound upon it over, the last year. And then like find like, wow, like this is another one of my jams. Like this is like something
yeah,
I'm into and you're passionate about. And I think, and then having that creativity too, which again, we talked about bandwidth, having some bandwidth now and go, wow, like all the things are just sprouting, the mind is a garden, as they say. But no,
so
I'm
true.
super stoked, dude. I'm super stoked to follow along with Loaded Gun and the new album coming out. That has to feel good too. Cause I know, no artist likes to sit for a very long time on music. So it's
Oh,
got
it's
to
the
feel
worst.
good to be like, okay, boom. And then 3 months
Yeah,
later, okay, boom. Like
yeah.
I got to get this to the people. So very exciting stuff on the horizon. It sounds like what you took from 2020, a very productive year, a very, trajectory up year. And then it continues to grow in 2021. So you got to feel good about the space that you're in currently.
Yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been a lot of fun. I think the main thing was when I saw the response that people were having to the sound of music that I'm doing now, it was really profound for me. It wasn't like, oh, that's catchy or that sounds, like something I hear on the radio. The response and the comments and the messages I'm getting from people are really passionate. Like
Yeah.
they're like, I've been waiting for this, and where has this been? And I think that I couldn't have planned it. It is just something that came out and it happened organically. I think at a really good time because, like you were mentioning, there are these formulas in the music industry that we're seeing, and I think for the most part, there's a big percentage of people that are over the formulas and they're over the regurgitated sound and again, not knocking anybody else's craft and their music, but I think even me, not just the musician and the artist, but just the fan, right? The consumer. I want to hear something new. I want to hear something that makes me go wow and take a step back. And so I think that when I realized that I was getting this type of passionate response from people, that they were like, okay, this is reminds me of this era or something that I thought was gone forever,
Right.
and yet it's given me something to be excited to. And I've had people say things like, I'll drive to Montana, and they're like where you're at, or they're on the East Coast, they're like wherever, when are you playing,
Right.
and they mean it.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most rewarding part about it, is I felt this true connection to my fans and the people that were engaging with my music on a whole nother level, because I was like, well, I feel just like you, so they're liking the music that I'm putting out for the same reasons that I am, and it was a special thing. So yeah, I think the hardest thing has been hanging on to this little arsenal of music that is pretty exciting for me, and not being able to just give people everything at once, but you'll learn patience in the music industry.
Yeah.
You have to, if you want to do it right, and so I'm just kind of enjoying the moment right now. And even though I'm in the creative mode, so I'm actually doing pre-production for my next 3 music videos right now, and it's really busy.
Yeah.
It's the best kind of busy. I wouldn't trade it for the world, because I think I'm most focused when I'm bombarded with too much stuff, because it almost forces me to do it. It forces me to be organized with my workflow.
Yeah.
And so it kind of sharpens you a little bit, but it is really busy. And so I think that for this whole summer, as I'm filming these projects and releasing stuff, it's going to be a lot of fun. But the trajectory, if you can see my hand, has kind of been like a steady climb.
Yeah.
And I know over the next probably 3.5 months, it's literally going to go like this.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. It's going to feel like, like quite a difference, I guess, from what I've seen here over the last year.
Yeah.
Sitting on everything for a while. So.
And it's got to feel good. You talked about workload, and there's some saying about if you give somebody a deadline of a week, they'll put it off until the day before. But if you give somebody a deadline of tomorrow, they're like, okay, I'm on it. Like, okay, now's the time. But there's also this, when you're doing stuff, and from the sounds of everything that we've said over the course of this conversation, like when you're doing things that you are like just love to do, like there's deadlines and there's things you have to get done, but you just like, I love it. Like you love going in and the writing process and the production process of music and everything, that being like so hands-on with it because it's you, and it's who you want to, give to the world and say, hey, this is legit. This is who I am, and I'm not, taking any direction from anybody else. And the feedback, I couldn't agree more, because that's exactly the thing that I sent you when I heard just the clip of Loaded Gun. Was I'm like, dude, that sound, like, I don't know where it's been, but I love it. And so thank you for reaching back out and being on the show. But I think that's also the great thing. You talked to technology a little bit in here, and the things you can, if you want to learn something, you go to the YouTube machine and type it in, or tell your robot to tell you. But another great thing is how discovery of new music and new sounds is a million times easier than it was even 10, 15. I mean, obviously back when we were listening to cassette tapes, you just got you had to go through the aisle, you had to click, go through all the tapes and see if you found somebody in a genre that you liked. But now people can, like, find you, and then they, find the tree that falls, other artists that are kind of doing what you're doing. So I think,
Similar sounds or
yeah,
whatever the algorithms plug you into.
yeah, just so discovery is great, and I'm glad that I was able to discover you and to be able to hear your story, man. Because, man, I'm just jacked. I'm jacked to see. I want to watch that. I want to watch that rocket ship. Just
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm real happy and blessed to be on your show. I'm glad that you got to hear the music and you were intrigued by it. Where do you see what's next, man?
I love it. I love it. Jessta James, man, appreciate your time. Take care of yourself. Looking forward to new music and the music video, the trilogy, and it feels like. And I know this isn't the beginning. You've been in this a minute, but this feels like just a big moments are
everything. It kind of is the beginning for me. Everything that I had done before led me to like the threshold of where I was going to start this new movement. I hope we get to speak again in the near future. We've got a few other real big things on the horizon here that I don't want to give away quite yet, but I think definitely we'll keep in touch, and I'm excited to kind of keep you in the loop of
Awesome. And yeah, definitely we'll be in touch. We'll get you back on when the album comes out, when the video 2 of 3 comes out, anytime you want. You just get a hold of me and we'll get you on the show. How's that sound?
All right, sounds great.
Awesome. Hey, brother, take care of yourself. Give people your social medias real quick before we bounce.
Sure. So I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram. It's Jessta James. You can just Google that. JESSTA JAMES. My website, it's going to get a big update here soon, but you can find anything you want to know there, and that's just jestajames.com.
Awesome. Jessta, take care of yourself, my friend. Looking forward to connecting in the future and the new stuff coming out, man. It's about to hit hard.
Thanks, brother. Well, God bless, man. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself, my friend.
All right, you too.
All right. Here we go. Jessta James on the show right there, jestajames.com. Look for him on Instagram and on Facebook, and also on wherever you listen to your music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, all the music platforms. Go and Joe's popping on in the comments that he's awesome. Like I said, I found him and I was like, I have been reeled in 100%. Very cool stuff. We'll get him back on the show too, and make sure you listen. That new album coming out. What do you say? End of July? Just keep it on your radar, man. Just keep it on your radar. I know when it's coming. So, very cool stuff. To all of you who watched today, thank you so much for being a part of Cooperville Live, Facebook Live, YouTube.com/Cooperville Live, and also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Cooperville Live. We're here every single weekday when I don't take vacations, which will probably be another 8 years. No, I'm kidding. Back again tomorrow, 5 p.m. Central. Join the show. Hit up the links. Joe DeGuano. I hear you're going to be in the EC on Thursday. Hit me up.